Hi everyone, this is Spring, the fiber enthusiast. Welcome to my channel. Today's tutorial is a crochet tutorial and it is moss stitch corner to corner. Some of the items that you might want to have on hand would be a couple of stitch markers, a needle to sew in your ends, a pair of scissors, of course yarn and a crochet hook. So, how do we start this and how do we finish it? Well, I'm here to tell you. So this is a really fun stitch and very dense fabric is what it makes. And if you've never done the moss stitch before, I would suggest doing a small sample to begin with to kind of get the hang of it, because as I said, this is a corner to corner. And at the beginning, it is a little bit tedious. Once you get started going, it works out just fine. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I have just a scrap ball of yarn. I'm imagining that it was Red Heart Super Saver or something like that. I always try to grab in my scrap bin for these tutorials, so most of the time they don't have a label. All right, so let's go ahead and place a slip knot on our hook. And you're going to chain 1, 2, and 3. Now we are going to single crochet into the very first chain. Get my tail out of the way here. All right, single crochet into that very first chain. Chain 1 and single crochet into that chain again. So now what you have is a chain space, chain 2 space, a single crochet, a chain 1, and a single crochet. I'm going to place my first stitch marker into that chain 2 space so I know right away where it's at. And now I'm going to chain 1 and 2, turn my work, and go ahead and place my second stitch marker around that chain 2. That will indicate on the next row after this one where my chain 2 is. That's the main thing, is you want to keep up with your chain 2 spaces. So now that I have done that, get it all turned the right way, we're going to skip that first single crochet that we have chained off of, and we're going to go into the chain 1 space next to it, which, as I said, can be a little fiddly, a little tedious. There we go. And you're going to single crochet into that chain 1 space. Then you're going to chain 1, single crochet into the chain 2 space where your stitch marker is. Chain 1 and single crochet back into that same chain 2 space. Now you're going to chain 1 and 2 and move your stitch marker up to your chain 2. I just put it around the chain 2. Okay, and turn your work. Again, we're going to skip that first stitch, and into the chain 1 space, we're going to single crochet. Chain 1, go to your next chain 1 space and single crochet. Chain 1, and now we're down here at our chain 2 space. You're going to single crochet into the chain 2 space, chain 1, and single crochet back into that same chain 2 space. I'm going to go ahead and pull this stitch marker off. Now you're going to chain 2, 1 and 2, turn your work, and place your stitch marker around that chain 2. Again, we're just going to skip over that first stitch and into the single crochet and into the chain 1 space. We're going to place a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet into your next chain 1 space, chain 1, single crochet into your next chain 1 space, chain 1, and then single crochet into your chain 2 space down here, chain 1, and single crochet back into that same space. Go ahead and move your stitch marker up, chain 1 and 2, turn your work, replace your stitch marker around your new chain 2, and we'll go over this again. We're going to skip this first stitch, and into the first chain 1 space you're going to single crochet, chain 1, single crochet into your next chain 1 space, chain 1, single crochet into your next chain 1 space, chain 1, single crochet into the next chain 1 space, chain 1, and single crochet into your chain 2 space, chain 1, and single crochet back into that same chain 2 space. Let's move our stitch marker up, chain 1 and 2, turn your work, replace your stitch marker around that chain 2. That is your repeat, and you're going to continue working that same pattern until it is as wide as you want, whether it be a blanket or a washcloth or a little facial scrubby. From this point to this point will be as wide as you want, and the same thing with this direction. So if I set this down next to this one, find the right corner here. Okay, so this is the corner that I started in on this one. And I set it here. We have a few more rows to go before I start decreasing. Go ahead and continue on until it is as wide as you want, and then I will meet back up with you and we will start decreasing. Okay, so I've done several rows and I'm ready to start decreasing. It's as wide as I want. So here's what we do next. You chain 2, you're at the end, chain 2, turn your work. I'm going to replace my stitch marker just as I have been doing all along. The only difference is we're going to skip these first 2 single crochets and we're going to go into the chain 1 space after them and single crochet. Chain 1 and continue to work in the same pattern until we have reached the last 2 stitches. So you're just chaining 1 and single crocheting into the chain 1 space. Going to continue all the way to almost the end. And I'll show you how to work that. Okay, so I've come up to, we have a chain 2, we have a single crochet, a chain 1, and a single crochet. We're going to skip over the top of the next single crochet and work a single crochet. We are not chaining 1. We are going to go straight in to where the chain 2 space is and place a single crochet. we will not be increasing. You will still chain 1 and 2. Move your stitch marker up and turn your work. Now we're going to skip that stitch and the next stitch, so the first 2 single crochets, and reach over to the first chain 1 space and place a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space. Continue that across to almost the end. Every decrease row is worked exactly the same. All right, so I'm down to 1 single crochet and my chain 2 space. I will not chain 1. I also will not increase. 1 single crochet into the chain 2 space. Chain 1, 2, turn your work and move your stitch marker up. I'll go over that again. You're going to skip your first 2 single crochets and single crochet into the chain 1 space. Chain 1, single crochet into the next chain 1 space, chain 1. Continue working that to almost the end where we make a big jump. Okay, so here I am. I'm down at the last single crochet and our chain 2. I will not chain 1 and I will not increase in this chain 2 space. Placing 1 single crochet. Chain 1, 2, and turn your work. You will continue doing that until we're almost to the last few rows, and I will meet back up with you at that point to show you how to close off the top. All right, we're down to the last few stitches here. So I'm going to reach over and single crochet, chain 1, single crochet into the next chain 1 space. Do not chain 1. And reach over and single crochet into the chain 2 space. Chain 1, 2, turn your work, single crochet. You're skipping your first 2 single crochets and single crochet into the chain 1 space. And then reach over to your last chain 2 space and single crochet. Chain 1 and bind off. You're going to cut away from your ball of yarn with our starting corner down here and our ending corner up here. And once again, that is the corner to corner moss stitch. Now, as you can see, it's a rather dense fabric. If you pull it apart, you can actually see through it some, but it squishes back together really easily. It is dense, but it makes a really nice fabric for multiple items. So I'm going to go ahead and sew in my ends, and that will be the end of this tutorial for this sample. And I hope that you have enjoyed and found this tutorial easy to follow. Be blessed and be a blessing. Bye for now, everyone.